Next, I'm going to show you how to create the linear and the cyclic files. So I'm going to place the same card we used before when we created standard files. I'm going to click on the show readers and click connect. So this is the same card we used. I'm going to click on the get AID buttons. So this is nothing but the list of files or the applications in that card. After that, click on get DF names. So this is a separate command sent to the card to get a list of all the ISO file names. So I'm going to choose the first application and click on select application button. So as soon as we did that, I'm changing the tabs to the files tab. So first get the list of all the files. We have created two files and click on the get ISO IDs. Now these two files we have already used in the previous video. We have a standard file. So I'm going to add one more file which is of type linear. So if you want to clear these text boxes, you can click on reset fields. So I'm going to have the ID as 03 and FID as 0003. You can also type in 0 and 3, still the same hex number. So I'm going to keep all these file settings as the same, where you don't need authentication to write to these files. So choose this linear file. So linear files are a file with fixed number of records. So I'm going to have the record size as 25, and keep in mind the smallest amount of memory reserved is 32 bytes. So even though the record says 25, still you reserve 32 bytes in the actual card. So I'm going to set this as 5 records. So what this means is we are creating a linear file with 5 records, and the size of each record is 25 bytes. So click on this button create file, and you can see this message create linear data file OK. So what do we do with this? So we can start adding records. The records can be anything. So for the timing, I'm going to add 25 lorem ipsum records. Sorry, 5 records with 25 characters. So first thing you have to do is, before you add any data to the records, you have to select the file. So click any of these files and say select file. Because I know this is a linear file, I'm automatically selecting this tab linear or cyclic files. So there are two sections here. The first is the write record, and below that is the read record. So let us write. So as we did before, I've got lorem ipsum website open. I'm going to create, let us choose 20 bytes, or you can just generate say 1000 bytes and you can just select 20, whichever is comfortable to you. So let's take up to here, Control C. I'm going to go back to my application and write it. I've got some message on the top. It says only 55 bytes are allowed. This is a kind of a limitations with writing to the Desfire cards using the ISO commands. So I'm not letting you add more than 55 bytes here. So probably in later videos, when I speak on ISO commands, it'll be clear why these limitations are. So if you're really curious to know, so this is something to do with the frame size between the frame of data sent between the reader and the Desfire is 64 bytes. That's the maximum frame size. And out of these 64 bytes, some bytes are used for the command headers and some are for data parameters and something like this. Okay, but at this stage, bear in mind you're not allowed to enter more than 55 bytes in each record. So maybe in later versions these restrictions might go away. So the name of the command, ISO command, for writing records is called append command. So I've called this label as append record. So when you click on this, so what you can say is the message says write record. Okay, now this is the first record, so I can just copy, create some more records here. So go back to lorem ipsum and take this, Control C, go back to this, say Control 5, just to make sure, just going to help us in the when you start reading it. I'm going to put number 2 there, or I can put number 2 before, just to make sure this is the second record. So append. So again, looks like something has happened. Probably this message is still there. So we have just written 2 records, so we still haven't written the remaining 3 records. So that is how to read these records. So here in the read record, we have to specify the record number. So in linear records and the cyclic records, each record you write is given a number, and the number starts from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. So again, numbering is not very clear, so just try this reading record number 0, and I'm going to explain this what all these options are. So click read. So looks like the read operation is reading the last record we wrote to this file. So the 0 means the current record. So if I make this as 1 and say read, so the record number 1 means the first record. Let's see what happens when it's record number 2. So there is no record number 2 here, so it says there's some error message. So just put record number 1 and record number 0. And if you want to read both the records, I have given one more options here to read from 0 to 1. Read. As you can see here, both the records are read, and the first record followed by this, just delete and try again. Yeah, so it looks like this is exactly 25 bytes. Never knew that it's 25. Okay, so what you can see here is the strange characters end. These are the null characters, or we have not used the 4 bytes in the first record. So when there's no data present, the Desfire probably inserts the null characters 0. You can write one more. Let's put record number 3. I'm going to keep this message as it is. Say append. So I got that. Record number 4, append. And if you want to read it back, probably I will start reading from, we can delete this, 0 to 3, read. So what you can see here, it's the latest record is the 0th record. Next to that is record number 1. Next to the record number 2, and next record number 3. So looks like the record number keeps changing as and when you append the records. So what was record number 1 became record number 2, what was 2 became 3, something like that. So I've got one more record to write because we got 5 records to write. I'm going to say 5, append, and let's try to write from 0 to 4. Read from 0 to 4, read. So you can read all the records. Let's see what's going to happen if I try to write the 6th record. So this is this error message is exactly what you see in the documentation. And the good thing about Desfire is whenever there is an error, not probably every type of error. At least for some errors, you don't have to restart the whole process again. When I say restart, I mean close this thing, disconnect the reader, put it back, and place the card again. You don't have to do that. It's still everything works fine. So what we have understood here is, in case of a linear file, the number of records are fixed and you cannot write more than 5 records. So once you once you append 5 records, it's done. You cannot write anymore. So, and also there's no feature to update a record. You cannot go and modify record number 2. So it's not possible with the ISO commands. Maybe it's possible, if you use some other set of commands. And also there is no way you can delete these records, which is not possible in using ISO commands. That's the reason why I mentioned, in the first video. So the Desfire supports the basic commands of ISO, not everything from ISO. If you look at the ISO list of commands, you do see a command to delete a file or erase a file, which as of now probably Desfire version EV1, so maybe it doesn't support. Probably EV2 might support this, which I don't know. Next, I'm going to show you how to create a cyclic records. I'm going to connect to the same card, get all the directories, and I'm going to select the first application. So as you can see here, I've added few more files. I was trying something else, so I'm going to add a new file now. So this time the file will have an ID of 7 and ISO ID as 7 as well, and we are going to create a cyclic file. So I'm going to create a cyclic file with 32 bytes record size, and I'm going to have, say, 5 records, and click on create. So there's something you have to be aware of with the cyclic files. Even though the maximum records is set to 5 here, somehow I'm not able to write more than 4 records. So looks like in case of a cyclic file, the number of records you can write is always 1 less than the maximum records you specified here. So I'm going to select this file and I'm going to add few records now. So I already have lorem ipsum with the 32 bytes set. I'm going to copy that and paste here. So however, this time I'm going to take away the last 2 characters and put the prefix, so that I know which record we are reading back. So let's add the first record using this command called append record. These commands are same for both linear as well as cyclic records. So the first record has been written. You can read that by using this, reading the record number 0. So the 0th record is always the latest record. And let's add one more. This time I'm going to change this index with 2, append, and 0th record is always the latest record. So what I understand is the record numbers is always given in the reverse order. Say for example, what was record number 1 before you add a new record is going to become 2 when new record is added, something like that. So let's see to read more than 1 records by using this command. So I'm going to read from record number 0 to 1. So as you can see here, the 0th record is the latest record and record number 1 is this one. So I'm going to add record 3 and try to read it all 3 records, and add record 4 and read from record number 0 to 3. So this command, reading from 0 to 3, what I have done internally is I'm sending 4 commands first to read with the record number 0, 1, 2 and 3. So I've got some kind of a loop. So as you can see here, the 0th record is the 4, 3, 2 and 1. So as I mentioned before, the number of records you can write is always one less than what is specified. So in our case, even though the maximum record is set to 5, I can still write only 4. So let's see what's going to happen when I write the next record called record 5. So if you remember, so this is cyclic file, so it is like this way. So you got record 0, 1, 2 and 3, and if I write a new record now, these records will, the new record is going to override the last one, the record number 3. This is going to go away. So in other words, the oldest record is the one that will be overridden. So let's try that. So I'm going to append. So after this append command, you should see that this record should have been overwritten by 2 and similarly 3 and 4. Append. So this is the current record, read from record 0 to 3. So as you can see here, the record 1 is gone. So this is how the cyclic file behaves. So write one more record 6 and read all the 4 records. So that's 2 has gone. So this acts like an infinite size file, and this structure very well suits logging. So where you always want to keep the latest, say 10 or 20 logs. And this is all about the linear and the cyclic files. So next videos I'm going to discuss more features about the standard and the linear files.